Hello friends and welcome back to our YouTube channel Gadget Rishi. In today's video we are going to see how do we take the crankshaft deflections of the main engine. So this is the crankshaft deflection gauge what we are going to use. We have a Bluetooth version, so there are no wires. I'll be connecting the gauge between the crank throws, and I will have a measuring unit which will be handled by a person outside the crankcase, which will get all the readings via Bluetooth connection. So the first step is to insert the gauge. The gauge to be inserted in the position clearly marked by the punch marks in the crank throws. Now we prepare to start our readings. So for that we will turn the engine to our initial measuring position. As you will see very soon, the first position is when we have the piston almost at BDC, but be careful, it should not the connecting rod should not collide with our gauge. So just before that moment we will stop the turning gear and we will mark that position as our initial measuring position B1, and always we set the B1 or the bottom one position. Once we achieve that, we set our measuring gauge to 0. We set a 0 position, and with reference to that we will turn the engine and we will have the subsequent readings as shown in the table. So we start at starting position B1, we set the dial gauge to 0, and then we turn the engine clockwise. Remember, the crankshaft deflections are to be taken only while the ship is afloat, not while the ship is in dry dock. And also this job is done when the engine is in cold condition, and it is very important to keep the measuring unit, the device, the gauge, in the same temperature condition as inside the engine, as in the crankcase. So always allow sufficient time to temperature stabilize. It should be as close as possible. This is the second position port. We continue turning. Another thing to note is as the alignment will be influenced by the temperature as well as the loading conditions of the ship, the deflection measurement should, as far as possible, should be made nearly at the same temperature and loading conditions as practically possible. So we continue turning. We are now closing in for our next position, which is starboard. So closing of the crank throw as regarded by a negative reading, it shows the compression of the gauge, and we take it as negative, whereas the opening of the crank throw is taken as positive. So the readings you get it on your gauge, that's how exactly you will write down on the table format as shown earlier. And then once our table is all filled up, then we go for the calculations. So this is the final position, B2. Remember, it should be as close to the initial position B1. So now that we have all the readings as per the table, we have to make some calculations. First thing, we calculate the bottom reading, that will be the average of B1 and B2, and then we calculate the vertical and the horizontal deflection as per the formula, top minus bottom deflection. And for the horizontal deflection, it's going to be port minus starboard deflection. That concludes the video. We hope you are liking the content. Do subscribe.